Hello everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a video. I just want to do a video on a commercial laser. You can see HMI there. And this is a golden laser cutter. I haven't got a clue what the model number is. It uses a Rolfin 400 watt slab. This one has a moving bed. As you can see, it's got a mesh screen just like a commercial toaster does in your local restaurants. Uh, Pretty much this is the largest one in this facility. This is a filter cloth manufacturing facility in New York, upstate New York. And so they've got, I believe, 6 laser cutters in this facility. This is the first time I've had to work on this one. They called me because they couldn't cut anything with it. It was out of focus quite a bit, and I'm probably still going to have to fine tune it. As a matter of fact, at the point of editing this, the last footage I got was before I fine tuned it. You'll see the big bellows on the back side of this thing, and that just keeps all of the linear rails clean of any debris and dust and the racking. So this one's got a gear rack on the top, and it's got where all the other lasers in here are all belt driven. Even though they're big tables, all the other ones are belt driven. And I believe that the going the other direction, I believe that is belt driven on this one also, but I didn't get a shot of it, so I don't know that for a fact. You'll see the light curtain on the right hand side of this, the aisleway side of this one, and that's to protect anybody from coming in. Here's the linear rails. I believe they're 30 millimeter, but I didn't put a dial caliper on them to see, but they look like 30 millimeters to me. And it's got the angled rack and spur gear assembly here. I don't know if they call them helical or whatever they call them, but anyway, it is what it is, and they work well. I mean, this thing's been running for just over a year, maybe 2 years actually, and this is my first time of service in this particular one. This one you'll see as I open the thing that the difference between the commercial lasers and your home laser is that they cool every place there's a beam bender. They cool all of the mirrors externally, so all the plates, all the mirrors mount to a chilled plate. And this one's got a touch screen. All the other ones are pretty much basically like our home laser cutters with a Rowita controllers. Inside, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you'll see the 2 chiller things, and they just use one of those CW3000 chillers that cool the beam benders or your 90-degree mirrors. And on the right hand side, you'll see the blue lines are just pneumatic lines that run just a marker, and the marker comes up and down with the pneumatic cylinder, and they use that to mark the perimeter of the cloth that they're cutting. And then they put a gasketing material on the outside, a latex material on the outside to gasket the cloth. So this plant here originally was owned by the company I worked for when I worked for the filter company. We purchased it from the people that are currently back here. They bought it with a 5-year no compete clause, and then they literally moved right back to where they sold it to us. and started from scratch. Basically, because this plant and the plant I worked at was my home base. I worked in this plant also, but they basically moved down south, and so they took a lot of the employees. They just literally brought them back in and put them right back to work doing what they did before. The only difference is the other lasers that we ran in this facility were mixed gas lasers. So there was a whole wall of tanks that we used to have to use, and the speeds of our lasers were much higher than these are, but the wattages were much higher also. Uh, you'll see that if you can look real close on the beam bender on the gantry, you can see the chilling lines there. On the inside, you'll see the beam bender box. There's that CW chiller. The other big pipes you see on the bottom, big hoses, those are for the downdraft for the exhaust. There you'll see the Rolfin laser slab. Now every one of our lasers in this facility have got a US based or UK based laser system. I believe Rolfin originally came out of the UK, but I think Rolfin and Coherent, I think they merged a few years back. I don't really keep track of them until there's an issue and I got to find parts, and that's when I find out who owns what company at any given time here. The light just marks your shutter, whether it's open or closed. When the light's on, it's just letting you know danger because of the fact that the shutter's open, and if activated, it'll send a beam out. Depending on who makes whatever unit these slabs are on, depends on how they're running. Now these Chinese ones, the shutter's always open. That's the way they got them programmed. So there's a bunch of inputs in there, and you can tell it to do whatever you want it to do. This particular one doesn't have the LED, which is weird. Because a lot of these slabs have LED alignments on the back of the shutter. So when you close the shutter, you can use the LED to align all of your lenses and mirrors on the other side of things, which makes it about 10 times faster. This is the back side of the cutter itself where the roll goods go. This roll good holder also moves on the floor, and it's got a tracking device, and the tracking device moves back and forth with a photo eye that they currently obviously haven't been using because it's sitting on the other side. It's not in the tracking system. So when you got a torpedoed roll like this one, the roll will do its best to track. So sometimes it's depending on what you're using for material with, sometimes you're starving for having just enough material. And that's where the tracking system comes into play. There, on this end, there's a couple pneumatic cylinders with a hold down bar, so when the material gets cut off, it holds it, keeps it from spooling back, and then it'll lift up. As you can see, it's up now as he's feeding the material up the bed. So the chiller for the laser slab itself is on the other side, right in line. You can't see it, but it sticks up above this roll good material. So it's a mammoth chiller. It's almost like a refrigerator. It's that big. It's good size, and that's to chill the laser slab itself, the CO2 slab. There you get a better picture of how big this thing is. It's almost the size of a refrigerator. And there's a photo eye that is supposed to be on that bar going across. It is supposed to do the tracking for the thing in the back. Now, at this point, when I got there, they hadn't been able to cut anything on this laser for some time because they're kind of stuck for when I can get there to service it. I try not to keep them down, but depending on my work schedule, depends on how soon I can get there. Okay, this is just about the end of the video now. It's just showing the cuts. And at this point, I know for a fact that I've got to do some more dialing in, and it's not going to show it after the fact, but I just wanted to show you, how they cut. You can see the smoke coming out of there, which I don't like to have. I like to festoon overhead to draw the smoke out, but they chose not to go with that option, and they're the ones spending the money, so they got to make whatever decision's right for them. And like I say, these lasers cut fairly slow, but they keep up with production for them. So the problem with these moving bed lasers is the fact that the focus, you're out of focus a lot, especially when you're cutting on the edges. You can see is how it's all rippled up, and if you're trying to cut that, sometimes it just won't cut. And so you'll end up with a spot that just won't cut, and you try to get it as good as you can where it cuts as best as it can cut. And it's almost like cutting plexiglass, where the stuff wants to melt back together again. So you try to cut it as fast as you can so it doesn't heat too much, but still cut. This stuff they're cutting here is a polypropylene material. And you can see when he pulls on this that because of the bias of the cloth, it never really cuts super clean no matter how good this thing cuts. But it shouldn't be cutting like that. Usually you may get a catch where you get one thread that'll be an issue. And that's just due to the way the material gets woven, the nature of the material. You'll end up with one spot that may or may not be an issue. This one was weird because it was always in the same spot. But, well, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy your day.